Hello, everyone, and welcome to Every Woman and Her Dog, a podcast where we talk about the things women whisper about in kitchens, voice note to their friends, and think about at 2 a.m. I'm your host, Joanne Lee, coach, therapist, and change maker. Each episode, we explore the realities of womanhood and cover topics ranging from identity shifts, feminine cycles, to self-leadership, relationships, burnout, and ambition, bringing to the surface the quiet reinventions happening behind closed doors for women. This is the being and becoming of personal agency. Let's get into it. Welcome to today's episode of Every Woman and Her Dog. Today's conversation is a really important one. We're unpacking something that gets spoken about a lot, but isn't always fully understood. Today we're talking about what it actually means to hold space, what's really happening inside a well-held space, and why it can have such a deep impact. Because from the outside, it can be hard to explain. Many women have experienced spaces that felt powerful or even uncomfortable, but haven't quite had the language to articulate why. So today, we're going to join the dots. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to introduce who's in the conversation today. I'm joined by Caitlin Dwyer-Taylor from TaylorMade Digital Support, a mum of two girls and the woman behind the scenes bringing so much of my work to life. I'm also joined by Nat Fell, who is an NLP coach and co-facilitator of And She Rose alongside me and plays a really integral role in holding that space for women. So let's get on to it.
I think what makes this conversation important is that held space is something we hear a lot but don't always fully understand. People can often describe how it felt to be in a space like that, but not what actually created it. So today, I really want to unpack this with both of you. What it actually means to hold space, what's happening underneath it, and why it can create such a powerful shift for people. I'm going to be honest, held space is one of those terms I hear a lot, but don't know if people actually know what it means, and I, myself, don't fully understand what it means. So what is it really? If someone walked into a space you were holding, Jo, what would they actually notice or feel?
That's a really good question. Before I answer that, I'm going to ask you, Caitlin, what do you think held space is, or what do you interpret that to be before we get into it, just to get a bit of a gauge on what the pulse is for those, like you've said, you don't really know what it is, or like what is your understanding of that?
I think from the little I've heard about it, I feel that it's more about like going into a space with other people who can sit there and be with you whilst you go through the motions of what you're learning and going through, and people who can allow you to have that time.
I think that's a really great insight, what you've come up with there. And if we think about, say, a classroom, that's a held space for learning, right? We go in, although if we reflect on our teenagers, I'm quite sure those held spaces were a bit frantic, but for some of us. But nonetheless, they were spaces created with a purpose, yeah? And so those spaces were spaces for teaching and learning. And when I talk about, well, let's just say in a general term of maybe program facilitation or one-on-one work or in that space, when we're talking about well-held spaces, we're talking about places that are created with intention, but also backed up by action. So your question was, if someone walked into this space that I was holding, what would they actually notice or feel? And Nat can attest to this later because I am only seeing it from my perspective, but my intention for those spaces is to support and guide, as well as contain them in this really safe space where they can go to depth and unpack things that have gone on for themselves without feeling like they've got to hold it all together for other people, or that other people are going to come into that space and intrude upon that. So it's really interesting. For me, it comes back to that well-held womb space that we're in as babies, that I can create those spaces for women to relax and to go to depth on, whether it's learning, whether it's uncovering a shadow side, whether it's unpacking a trauma, or whether it's developing knowledge and understanding. So they would feel safe and secure, well held, and also a sense of lightness, that they don't have to hold everything together in this space. It's their permission slip to let go a little bit.
Yeah, helping them drop their guard and open up instead of staying inside their head. Mm-hmm. So Nat, you've been there. Mm-hmm. What did it feel like for you to be in that held space with Jo?
I think it was what was empowering. I think when I first started ASR, the group that I did it with, I think we were the first group. And it was during crazy times. Mm-hmm. And
like some off on again COVID time.
That's it. And it was an arranged age group of women. And once everyone started to feel comfortable and you knew you were in this space where you felt safe, people started to let their guard down. Yeah. And the more people started to speak, the more people were sitting there going, I feel the same way. So when you say held space, it's also that really safe environment to be yourself. And whether, also not only that, but people weren't interrupting you, so Jo made it very clear that when people were holding it for a certain person at that time, they got to speak freely. No one overspoke, no one gave them a solution. It was just like, let them just be free to articulate what was going on for them.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time I just need someone to listen. Mm-hmm. I don't want you to tell me the answer.
Yeah.
And that sounds like, being able to create that space for all these people is amazing. So let's chat a bit more about how this space shows up within Angie Rose. Mm-hmm. What is it about the way Angie Rose is held by both of you that allows women to soften, open, and actually move through something real?
I think first of all, it's the way it's set up. Everything is intentional. Every single element of that 2-day immersive container is intentional, from the resources you receive, to the pre and post support you get, to the way the room's designed, to the content that's within the 2 days, to the held spaces within the held spaces. Everything, every single element has been deeply nurtured, but also put together in a way that you cannot leave that space the same way that you walked into it. It's almost like this beautiful cocoon that you step into for 2 days, where if you think about a butterfly or a caterpillar, the caterpillar eats all of as much as it can, and then it goes into the cocoon and comes out a butterfly. And Angie Rose is exactly like that, because for 2 days you're consuming content, you're eating all of that stuff up, and you're then also resting in that space. And then when you leave, you're emerging as having a deeper, it's either an identity shift, a deeper sense of self, or being in a place where you have quantum leaped, quite literally, from one baseline or version of yourself to another. And what allows women to soften is helping them to learn how to give themselves permission to become their own leaders in their own life. Because for a lot of us, men and women, we outsource that. We use the lens of external society, and that dictates the terms and conditions about how we have to be. A simple example is that of someone that's a promoter online, right? Someone that says, this shirt is the new black, right? An influencer. That is taking someone else's take on it. You might like that, but why do you like that, and how do you like that, and is it right for you, or are you just setting yourself up based on structures and mindsets that have been imposed or impressed upon you rather than being your own sovereign authority on those things. And that's just a really basic example. What we do in that container is way beyond anything like that. And that is, I think the intention, I know the intentions and how much depth and thought is put into how that container supports and turns up for women is what allows them to soften, is what gives them permission, because there's a reclamation happening. What would you say about that, Nat?
That held space also brings, like, you get a lot of insight into who you are all of a sudden, because you've taken the time to sit and learn. And then at the end of it, it's like, well, how am I going to make this change moving forward? I think probably just reflecting again personally, I was scared I was going to lose too much of my identity, because I was actually quite happy with who I was. I was a massive empath, but then I started finding out things like words like people pleasing and things like this that started to really challenge me on who I was. And now, years down the track, I still do those things, but I don't put them first. So it's just pulled that back in, where I make sure that it's what my intentions are for myself as well.
So from being in a place where you were happy with who you were, what actually motivated you to dive into the And She Rose container, even though you were happy with where you were? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being happy with where you're at.
I wanted more.
Okay.
I wanted so much more. I knew there had to be something else out there. And I knew, just with some work I'd done with you in the family environment, I knew there was definitely more out there for what I wanted to do and my purpose. Like, I wasn't feeling fulfilled enough. And I was going through a transition, and it just helped navigate that space a lot nicer for me.
And so then for you, even though you were happy with where you're at, once you started that commencement of the program, would it be fair to say that what unfolded for you was maybe you weren't happy with some of the things that...
100%. I did realise.
Yeah. Said us all.
Yeah. And then now having more of a fulfilment in life.
Yeah.
Like where I am, who I am. And I probably didn't even know who that was. I thought I did.
Yeah.
But that time that I spent in that space with you and some of the awesome women that I got to meet as well, and hearing of their journey, I think you also don't feel alone. Because it can sometimes be really hard with us strong women to go, hey, something's not quite right and I need help. So, yeah.
I think the other thing, just in relation to the answering of your question, Caitlin, about, you know, what allows women to soften, there's a deep ancient instinct there for women, knowing that sitting in circle with other women and unpacking those types of things with other women is something that we've practiced since the beginning of time, that's been stripped away from us. And so they come in to that energetic space with this really deep felt sense that this is actually the way it should be. This is what's right. This is the way we should be in right relationship with each other and with these processes. These are actually part of what it is to be a woman. And I think that there's that energetics of that land really quickly, which enables women to open up really fast. Yeah.
So what is it that actually shifts for women inside held spaces like And She Rose? Because women walk in at very different points. Is it that some feel stuck, disconnected, looking for a new version of themselves? Or maybe there's something wrong or off, or they want something more, like you, Nat? And then something changes across those 2 days. What do we actually see shift in women? So Nat, you completed And She Rose, and now you've moved into a space of co-facilitating And She Rose. How did you shift from one to the other?
I just didn't want to stop. Just the insights that I learnt through And She Rose. I've continued to go on and do 2 or 3 more courses now with Jo.
True, yeah.
And just constantly even attending and doing held space things with Jo and a couple of the other women that I've met along the way. I've brought it into my work environment as well, and also the way I communicate, and also in the family unit. I think it's made a big shift and change for the way that I see myself as a mum, and as a wife, and just me as a person as well, because that never gets brought up. I then went on to do, for a couple of years now, I've been wanting to do the NLP practitioner's course. And last year I actually signed up, paid for it, and invested that time in myself, and it just got deeper.
Yeah.
It really got deeper. A big shift has been happening for a few years now with myself, but last year the learnings got deeper, and I'm continuing to learn. I'm continuing to grow, and I just want to know more. I find people's behaviour quite interesting, challenging, and also I'd love to see women support women.
Yeah.
So that's what I really enjoyed about the course the most.
Yeah, great. And for those who don't know, what is NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
And what does that entail?
It's the easy way. It's just subconscious reprogramming.
Yeah.
It's the easy way to put it. So it's about it's the practice of excellence in the patterning that goes on in our brains. So everything that we do exists in our subconscious mind. It's like a giant catalogue, and within that catalogue, where we could think about that catalogue being like a computer hard drive. And within that hard drive, there's programs and lines of code and lots of different things. What we know about how mindsets work and how our behaviour interacts with mindsets is that it drives them. So NLP is the study of that, as well as learning the tools and strategies to help people change that and helping them implement that. And then the linguistics part is about speech. Not just how we speak on the outside, but how we speak on the inside and how those interactions happen. So NLP is the pursuit of personal excellence, and it can be utilised in coaching, in therapy, in lots of different ways. So it's a big study area. It's also quick. It's like hypnotherapy on steroids. So it works quick. It changes things fast, which is why we can implement fast change in a way that doesn't disrupt a person's felt sense of self, so that they become out of touch with their environment and their world, and then they can't calibrate quick enough. It works to support a person quite quickly in those spaces.
Yeah, without the, I've seen people have different therapies and things like that, and they don't know then how to take that resource away and actually implement it. Whereas NLP, I find it's quite nice and nurturing, and you can actually just heighten some of your really strong strategies and different things that are happening in your life. And then if there's anything that you need to work on, you can just do it gradually. It's not like instant, and then people go, oh, what just happened, sort of thing.
I think like the good thing about NLP is it puts people back in the driver's seat of their life. Yeah. They learn these tools and strategies, and then they know long after they've done work with a practitioner or a therapist, they can reuse that. It's a rinse and repeat in a different way. Sometimes there might be a big issue or a trauma or an incident that they need to come back and talk to their therapist about or their practitioner about, to just reframe a few things for them, but then they hit the ground running and they're off, which is a little bit different to other traditional forms of therapy and coaching, because there's a lot of talk therapy and that stuff. And even though there is a lot of linguistics in NLP therapy, there's just so much more action. And that's why it moves a lot quicker. And so for someone that might have 2 or 3 decades worth of outdated programming and maybe lines of code that are faulty, if we talk about it like that, it's going to take them a lot less time with NLP than it is with other forms of therapy, depending on what's going on, because there's always a disclaimer for everyone there. But that can really change. Like, we work with phobia changes, we work with restructuring the way that PTSD works in the body. There's so many different elements we can work with in NLP.
Sorry, and just one other thing that just come up while Jo was talking there is awareness. So once you can feel yourself or being aware of something that might have triggered you before, or that programming as well, you can actually go, oh, that's coming up for me again. I need to sort of pivot and get myself in the right space. Yeah,
great. Let's go a bit deeper into And She Rose beyond the description.
Oh.
So on paper, It's a 2-day immersive experience.
Yep.
There's conversation, there's reflection, but that doesn't really capture it. So for both of you, how would you explain And She Rose to someone who feels the pull, like they need to do something, but doesn't fully understand what they're being called into?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. Well, I'm going to say, as a little bit of proof in the pudding, Nat actually wouldn't be possibly talking here today without some of the tools from And She Rose.
100%.
She said that to me before. That's not me claiming that for her. So how would I explain And She Rose? Well, it's a course for women. And traditionally we find that women from 25 and up usually do the best in it. And it's definitely for women, like I've worked with women in their 60s and 70s in this course. So I love that this course opens up a cross range of maidens, mothers, margas and crones, which is so beautiful. So it's for women across all of those diverse spaces. And well, first of all, I'm saying if you're feeling the pull, there's something there. And we've been taught to ignore our intuition. So if something is pulling you, that's your intuition saying this is something you need to pay attention to, yeah? And then sometimes we don't fully understand everything we do, but we just know this is the next step for me. So do we really need to know or fully understand everything aside from the logistics of things like when is it, how am I going to be, how am I going to get there, how do I pay, all that type of stuff. Besides from those logistics, I suppose I always move to the felt sense. Like, what's the felt sense within you? Is it are you hearing that voice that says this is right for you? Or are you feeling you need a next step, you need a direction, or you need help leveling up with something? Or are you sensing that there's something extra for you? So they would be the answers that I give around feeling the pull. And for someone that doesn't fully understand what they're being called into, what you're being called into is a sacred container. It's a container that you will be completely immersed in the ancient feminine wisdom with some therapeutic and coaching tools and learning how to develop good relationships with women again. So I actually get a lot of women that step into the container petrified of other women. Seriously, they've been so damaged by other women in toxic female circles or workplaces or lots of different places where they know they want to do it, but they're petrified about stepping into circle because they judge themselves so much, or they've been judged in other spaces that they know that they want to heal that. They want to heal the feminine wound there. So that would definitely be something else that's huge in that space. Nat?
I just got the Nike slogan in my head saying, just do it. And what have you got to lose? When you feel that pull, to go away and spend time on yourself for 2 days, a lot of women don't give themselves that space.
We don't give ourselves 2 minutes.
No, and we make
2
excuses.
days.
But if you actually just do it, the amount of information that and the tools that you'll get in the 2 days, even if you only get a couple little things,
which you'll get lots
more. You will, but you will also, it's a game changer. It gives you a different perspective on who you are, an understanding and perspective, of who you are. So, I know a lot of women can be quite scared, like Jo just mentioned, about being with other women and in a safe space, but this space that we do hold, it's non-judgmental. And you can be free to be whoever you want to be. So
I think in the non-judgmental part, it's learning not to be judgmental of yourself too. It's re-empowering you to understand that you don't need to. Yes, you need to be able to reflect and assess where you're at and what you're doing, but there's a difference between doing that and being the curious observer in your life to judging yourself and persecuting yourself for, a plethora of different things. I suppose, Caitlin, for you, I'd be interested in, what would what would you need, or what are your thoughts on Enshiro? Because you kind of get the back end, and you've had some Enshiro's experience, so some. And we kind of, let's be, I don't know if she's happy to answer this, but she got put in the hot seat with Nat and I because we did a delivery day, and she was our mock client for a few hours, and she got put through some of that. What was that experience like for you in that really small held container that we had that day? But in saying that, we weren't interrupted, and we had a really nice space, and just to put the feels out there, you know, Nat bought these amazing box of goodies, and I'd organised lunch. So this is part of what we talk about a setup of a container, right? Is that we're nurtured, we're held, we're looked after, all our senses are being catered for, yeah?
Yeah. I think I was a great guinea pig, I guess, for you guys, because I am in a space of, I know I need to do something, but I don't know what it is. And I'm still in like very raw stage as well. So I think it was really good for all of us to do that day, because I could answer questions, you know, coming from the mindset of a mum or just a person who's in the middle of a transition, and I think I said it a few times, like, my brain doesn't understand.
Yes.
It was interesting because you would ask very simple questions, and sometimes it took me a moment to think deeply into those, about how I actually feel, how I actually feel my answer is, rather than what I think the answer should be. Because it's been such a long time that I've lived to please people, be a people pleaser, and give people what they want, what I think they want. And in that space, it allowed me to think a bit more, and you gave me the time, and even prompted me a little bit. If I couldn't quite get my head around it, you'd kind of go in a different direction to help me come back to it. To allow me to just stop and think about who I actually am. And it was hard.
Can you define hard? What do you mean when you say that?
I think that I really tried to push against the truth.
Oh.
I didn't.
In what way do you mean?
It's hard to describe. I feel like you'd ask me the question, and I'd have a deep think. I would realise what my truth was, but then still to say it out loud.
It was a bit like choking on it?
Yeah. It was really hard. But then once I said it, I felt better.
Yeah. And so was there a sense of relief that came over once that came out?
Yeah, a bit of relief. And then I also I walked away with like lots more to think about, and even just like looking at like my home life, my relationship with my husband and my relationship with my daughters, and like looking at those a little bit deeper and going, oh, hang on.
How am I showing up in those spaces?
Yeah. And especially with, like we spoke about scripting, and a lot of things that just were ingrained in me just from like growing up, or just society really, or TV. And learning that doesn't have to be the truth. I can make my own.
Yeah.
Make my own truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was deep, and I was only there for 3 hours?
3 hours?
Right, it's immersive.
Yeah. Exactly. So imagine having that experience over and over and over again for the period of 2 days.
Yeah.
What do you think you would come out like after having just that? You know, we've just honed in on, say, scripts, or we've just honed in on what, you know, how I turn up in that space. And
core values, that was
huge.
That was a big one, because when I looked into core values, I was like, honesty. And then you pointed out that you actually have to be able to live those core values yourself. And I was like, I'm not fully honest. So how can I expect other people to be honest with me if I can't be honest?
And when you're talking about
else?
honest, so just so that our listeners get a scope for that, it's not that you're distrustful, or what you're saying is it scares you to be honest about things to other people because of the people pleaser.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to just pull that into context to say it doesn't mean you don't value it, and it doesn't mean that you're not an honest person, as in of good moral fibre. But what it means is, as a core value, you cannot say it's a core value because you're not able to practice it the way in which you would like to. And that may change further down the track, or it may not, and that's totally fine. Wherever and however that shows up, it doesn't mean you don't value it. It just means it's not a core value, which is that discrepancy. So can you, just getting back to that question, imagine that unfolding over and over and over again over a period of 2 days in a really supported space where you're taken care of emotionally and energetically and physically, and you're surrounded by other women going through this same journey as you're going through. How do you think that might feel for you at the end of that?
I would definitely feel lighter, but I think I'd be much the same as Nat. I would want more. I'd be like, right, what else?
So you've got it. You would kick an appetite in,
I'd be like, right, why are we stopping? Let's keep going. Because I'd come out of that wanting to like implement
and you would,
and make the most out of it.
And you would, because you'd be taking all of that with you, and there would be a plan of implementation. And the reason why stop here is integration. You need to integrate everything and embody everything, and then you go, what's next? Yeah, for sure. I'm still doing that 20 years, 25 years down the road. I'm like, so what's next? So, and not like what's next. I'm distracted by what's next. What's next, because that's my natural progression. Like I've reached a new baseline, and it's like, okay, so what am I feeling into now? What's the territory, the environment that I'm feeling into next, and how do I build on that? For sure.
I'd like to touch on the readiness, because I think that connects to how a space is experienced, especially, if you had come to me maybe 12 months ago, no, because I wouldn't have had the baby. If you'd come to me 12 months ago, I would be very heavily pregnant, and I would not be in a space of readiness to go into something like this. But then also there's women out there that have different reasons for readiness as well. For someone listening, how do they know if they're ready to step into a space like this? What allows someone to actually receive what's being held rather than resist it?
Ooh, that's a deep question.
I think it is. We've come across a few people that they think they're ready and then they start they start to hear what you've got to say, and then they push because they go, that's not what I want to hear. And they start to resist it.
Well, you even said yourself there was some resistance in that little bit of work that we did on that day, because you're like, I know this is the real truth, but it's choking me up. So that's a great example of how resistance is actually part of the process. But I'll let Nat jump in on this one first and see what she thinks.
I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's the resistance. So you were saying like core values and scripts, like different elements of the program itself. You might get a few things, but then the resistance is the one that you need to work on the most.
Yeah.
So, and when you were just talking there, I'm thinking fear. I'm thinking, we kept saying resistance, but fear is a big thing. And I think if you've got fear in something like this year, Joe keeps asking me to do a lot of things, and I'm just like, yep. And if I think about it too much, I'm going to fear it, and I'm going to go, I can't do it. So, and I'm doing that in a lot of things in my life right now, because I don't want to go back and go, I should have done that, or I should have done this. I want to be able to say, I nailed that, or I actually had a crack, and like, what have I got to lose, really?
Well, there is no failure.
No,
if you're giving it a go anyway, you're already winning, right? Yeah. So I think it's so interesting, Nat, when you talk about like just saying yes to something. For you, what's that difference between saying yes and overcommitting yourself to things? and saying yes and knowing that gauge between, if I said no to this, that would be a fear-based response versus, this is just saying yes because it's an old pattern and I say yes and then I overload myself. What's the difference there?
I think, again, back to what we were just talking about with the level up. So every year we talk about words and different things that we've got for the year, and it's like, how am I going to level myself up on what I already know and grow? Or am I saying yes to something that usually it's a social event that I don't want to do? And I've pushed myself really hard all week, and then you get to the weekend, it's like, I wish I didn't commit to that dinner out with people because I really didn't want to go. They're probably not even the people I want to hang out with right now. So I stopped saying yes to those sort of things. I think it's just making sure that my yes is for something that's going to make me feel like I'm bettering myself and that I'm going to level up that next lot of intentions that I've had. But the yes to the things that are sort of empty, and not fulfilling what my goal is.
How do you know, Caitlin, the difference between when something is like inviting you and it would be overload versus fear?
I usually just go off my gut. I just kind of know.
Intuitively, right?
I usually know whether I'm making a choice based off of fear or anxiety, or whether it's just not the right choice. Or if it's like something I just don't want to do. There was probably 6 months ago, I had actually applied for a job. They'd contacted me to have an interview, and I just felt off about it. Part of me was like, is this because I'm anxious about going back to work and I have a baby and stuff? But I knew that I just did not want that job. And there was so many things that kept blocking me from doing this interview. And I just finally I was like, why am I fighting against? I don't want to do it. And the universe is telling me not to do it because it's making, like...
It's putting roadblocks in there.
There were so many roadblocks. Like, they wanted me to... The interview had to be on this day, and that was the only day of the week that I had both of the girls. I had nobody else to care for them. They were not even flexible with time, so I couldn't even change the time of the the interview, so that my dad could come and watch them for like an hour or whatever it was. And there was so many roadblocks, and I was like, I don't want to do it. Everything's telling me not to do it, and that's kind of how I knew I wasn't scared. I didn't want to do it. So every time I'm making a decision, I'm feeling inside whether I'm making a decision based on fear, because fear and I are very well acquainted. So I know. I know when it's fear and when it's not.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because that is my method of assessment, whether I know I'm ready for things or not, is I've got like a sequence, basically. First of all, if there's fear, I'm like, is this real fear? Is the lion going to eat me?
Yeah.
Right? Fear? Because that's real fear. Or is this anxiety, which is classed as unrealistic fear? A lot of it is projected from the future, like projecting yourself into the future and then going, oh, what about this or what about that, and running through all these multiple scenarios of things that could possibly happen without actually qualifying information. So first of all, I assess that, and I'm like, okay, so that's more of an anxious fear. And I'm like, so what am I fearful about then? What is it that's the problem? And let's say in this instance, it could be something like, it's going to stretch me financially, right? So that could be, and then I have learned personally that I then apply the tool that I taught my kids, the squeaky wheel gets oiled, right? So if that is my fear, I have a rule with myself that I need to address it. So if I did that, I would actually be making contact with that person and saying, look, I'm concerned about this. Can you offer me this? This is what I could do. And then I either get a yes or I get a no. And that to me, like we run off so many assumptions where we can't do this, or this is not, like we can't take up space and ask these questions, So I keep going through a method of assessment like that. And then, like you said about the roadblocks, if I keep asking and I keep getting roadblocks, then that also says to me, not necessarily not ever, but not right now.
Yeah.
Whereas if I ask those questions and qualify what I can and can't do in that space, and then it's a yes, 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 and I'm still scared, then I know it's definitely something I need to do. Because what sits next to that scariness is excitement. Is like, ooh, what if? What would that look like? And what if this could be that? And in a really good way. So then I'm like, well, I won't know unless I do it. And that's how I assess something I'm being pulled into, but I might not know if I'm quite ready or not. And I always say you don't have to have it all sorted out, but you do need to take a step. Because if you don't take steps towards something and then qualify whether it's going to work or not for you, then you're paralyzed. You've got analysis paralysis and you're sitting back here never actually actioning anything and not qualifying whether you're getting the right answers for yourself or not. Because then how do you know? Unless it's like saying to someone, oh, here, would you like some chocolate cake? And they're going, oh no, I hate chocolate cake. And you go, okay, or is it the texture? And they're like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, sorry, what do you mean you don't know? And they're like, oh, well, I've never eaten it, but I hate it. And you're like, how? How is that possible? It's a formed thought, right? It's a mindset about, and it's an agreement about chocolate cake, but they've got no idea. They haven't actually qualified, yes, I ate the chocolate cake and it tastes like shit. Or, no, actually, that's not as bad as I thought it was, right? So, but we don't do that. We're not taught to qualify things in our lives. We're taught to follow. And that's a big thing.
Or fear.
Fear or follow. Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Did you have anything to add about readiness or not being ready?
I don't know that you could actually say you're not ready. Like
I feel like, sorry.
Yeah, yes.
No, that's
I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking that the people who are not ready don't know that they're not ready because they don't have the awareness of not being ready. And I kind of, whenever I see not ready, I'm not thinking about people who are scared or can't financially do it, because they are ready.
Yeah.
My brain goes to the people who resist. They're the people that aren't ready, but they don't know that they're not ready.
Yeah.
Because
that's a really insightful statement,
yeah.
Caitlin. Really insightful.
Yeah.
And look, this applies not just to the And She Rose container. This applies to any personal work.
Yeah, anything.
Any work that you're going to step into. Yeah.
I feel like it's the people that don't know that need to do it.
You're right. So, Nat, what would your answers be? What would be I know what mine are, so I'm going to hold on mine. What would your answers be that they're experiencing that they are ready for this work, but they don't know that they're ready? So my first marker is repetitious cycle.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah? Like they keep having the same experiences. Either you keep choosing the wrong people to couple up with, or you keep having the same conflicts with people, or
keep losing that job.
Exactly. You keep finding yourselves in these negative situations, and you don't understand why this is happening. That would be someone that's ready, or somebody that feels like they're treading water. Like they're treading. Oh, yep, life's good. Like I feel like I've got the job sorted, and I feel like I'm doing this. So they're ticking all the boxes, but there's a felt sense of dissatisfaction, this is easy. You know, like I'm doing all this, but I'm not really getting fulfillment out of these things.
Yeah.
That would be someone who's ready for this work as well. The other thing, so I said pattern and treading water. And the other thing would be like someone who feels like they don't have direction. So opposite, this person who's treading water has got heaps of direction, but they just are sitting in the same spot. Whereas someone who feels like they can't get a bearing on a direction, and they might be blaming lots of external sources for that, like, oh, it's the job, or oh, it's my partner, or oh, it's my parents, or, you know, and they're not actually able to sit in a space where they can go find out what it is going on inside of them. They would be my main three. Mm-hmm. What about yours now?
Probably very similar, but more around not feeling challenged, like feeling like, yeah, you're on Groundhog Day.
Oh, yeah.
And really bored. But, like, still having the fulfillment, and you've still got, like you said, ticking all the boxes, but at the same time going, there's got to be something more. I want something more.
And you're probably doom scrolling looking for it, aren't you?
And getting all these crazy stuff come up on your socials.
Yeah.
And just this sense of just not feeling fulfilled in all aspects of your life. And I think you start the course really like in a beautiful space about your wheel of life.
Yeah.
And actually owning it and saying exactly where you're up to. Like, I remember mine being so jagged, I don't know, it wouldn't have turned. It was a flat tire, really.
For those who are listening, the wheel of life is a circle, and you assess all different key life areas.
Yeah, it was very jagged.
So for Nat to say it was a flat tire,
it looked like a bit of a star sort of shape, and it wasn't round at all. So I'm like, how can you not get traction, and how can you not move forward or grow in those spaces if you don't even know where you're at?
Absolutely.
So it would definitely be. I think that's where the readiness comes in, but then I think the resistance can also be the unknown. So not actually knowing what you're going to put yourself into for 2 days. And we're telling you all these wonderful things and things we've experienced and seen many women experience so far, and we get really excited about it.
Yeah, it's like watching the unfolding of women in that space is so good. Like,
it's amazing.
And will you have a shit your pants moment? Of course you will.
Yeah.
But will you have an absolute euphoric moment or some ding dong awareness moment? You'll get all of that. And will there be happiness? Will there be a range of emotions? Absolutely. Absolutely. But at the end of it, it all culminates to this empowered journey that maybe you never knew you needed in the first place. But then when you do it, you're like, how could I have not needed that? How was I even operating in those spaces? Like, how was I doing that? It's kind of like, maybe somebody that like can't hear properly, who doesn't actually think that there's a hearing issue, like literally. It's kind of like when you first get glasses too. Like they don't think that there's a hearing issue. And then actually really remember a friend of ours who was just managing not hearing well for quite a while, male friend, and he was just accepting it. He was just like, oh yeah, that's it, because there's probably shame and judgment and all those things tied up in the fact that maybe my hearing's gone. And he went and got his hearing tested and then got this little invisi hearing it. And he's like, I didn't realise I wasn't hearing the birds. And I didn't, like, there were all of these things that he didn't realise he was missing out on because he just reserved himself to the fact that that's just the way it is. And I'm here to tell you it's not like that.
Just live it.
Yeah.
That's just how I've got to live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like just resigning yourself to that way of living all the time, and that's just the way. I call bullshit on the whole lot. And the reason I do is because of these types of containers that I'm not the only one offering these things. There's other people out there offering stuff, and no matter what direction you decide to go in and what you decide to do, like you start to learn things straight away.
And then you just want everyone to learn with you. So.
Yeah. Especially if you're a sharer.
Yeah.
Because if you like sharing, you're like, oh, how about this little one? How about that? How about this? And you get quite passionate about sharing all that information. And I mean, that's what drives me as a person. You know, if I rise, my people rise. And I keep consistently offering those things to people because I believe that as women, we are moving and on the rise, and it's time for us to really step into places of personal autonomy and sovereignty for the purpose of putting our best selves out there. You know, we work on us, we get good mothering, good community members, good sisters, good friends, good daughters, good everything. And women are responsible for the psychic, energetic, emotional environment. So when we work on that within ourselves, God, we're a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're just so, and not in this power over paradigm or force energy. It's like you just radiate it. You see it. You've spotted it before, right? You see it, a woman in a space, and she's magnetic. And you watch her and you're like, I can't take my eyes off her. She's like, oh my God, like she just has this creative force coming out of her. And I'm like, I would like to be near that, because I can feel, and that's what we're here to give women back, is that magnetic force in themselves, that space of, that creatrix space where they just ooze it all out of them.
It's pretty magical to watch.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Before we close out, I'd love to ask you for your final nugget, Jo.
Oh, the nugget.
After everything we've spoken about today, what it means to hold space, what actually happens within it, and why it can create such a shift. For the woman listening, what would you want her to understand about the kind of spaces she places herself in?
Be discerning. Be discerning about the places that you open yourself up in. I'm an advocate for opening up and finding those right spaces, but know that they're held. Know that in the spaces that you go to depth, that there's confidentiality agreements in place, that you know that what you say can be heard without needing to be fixed or changed, depending on what space you're in. If you're in a therapy space, that would look a little different, because you are there to be helped in that space. And also be bold, be brave, put yourself out there. Like, you don't know what your edges are and where you can stretch yourself to unless you actually stretch. And seek out well-heeled spaces for women. Places where it might be just the women's spaces, so say it's a women's circle or something like that, where it's being held with deep integrity. Because there's a lot of offerings out there on the table, especially in the health and wellness spaces. And I've been in situations where good intending people have wanted to go to depth with women or with men and women, but unfortunately the space doesn't really support that. And I think that's really important to know there's a time and a place for each thing, and you can find those spaces with your own discernment. And like you said, your gut feeling, Caitlin, or maybe Nat's desire to stretch herself and find that place that she could do that in. It's really discernment, I would say. That is my number one key there. Nat, what would you say?
If anyone I think resistance still comes up. If anyone was sort of sitting in that space where they were feeling not confident to be able to share, I can't stress to you enough how comfortable the space, and also how much work goes into making sure you don't feel like that when you walk in. So if it's that holding you back right now, going, oh, I've got too much, like, just bring a bit of yourself and you'll still get so much from it. So it could be something you'd want to continue on even in a one-on-one space. Some people might need that as well. But as far as, like you said, step into it, own it, and just take that time for yourself. Because I think that's another thing, like I mentioned earlier, women don't do that well. We've always got everyone else to keep happy and keep on top of.
Yeah.
So make sure that it's an investing in yourself, really. Yeah.
I think as a rule of thumb too, if you're looking into a women's circle, I was so blessed to be able to sit in circle with a really good mentor in that space, that a women's circle, no one has an opinion, especially in the talking bowl time. In the talking bowl time, which is an ancient feminine practice, she who holds the basket speaks and nobody else talks. We don't have an opinion. We don't give feedback. We hold space. We sit as a container full of women and we hear what this woman has to say with no intention other than just hearing her. And that is it. And that is such a powerful tool. If you're in a space where that, in a specific women's circle that runs talking bowls, and that is not happening, and the rights and responsibilities of each circle holder is not being spoken about, and the transparency of privacy and also confidentiality hasn't been addressed, I would say be mindful. Because they're the strong foundations that need to be set up in those spaces. And the other thing about talking basket circles, and men have talking circles too. Usually got the talking stick, it's very phallic. For women, it's the talking bowl. But in those spaces, whatever gets said inside that circle doesn't get spoken about or repeated outside the circle, unless the woman who's spoken it wants to talk about it outside. That's her story to tell and her story to initiate, but besides that, it doesn't get spoken about. That is just such a powerful thing, because women everywhere are renowned for the opposite. Yeah. Because we've lost that space. We've lost that safe space to learn how to be in those circles. And because we've lost that, our whole culture has changed, and then, we get the opposite happening. We get that toxic femininity coming out. We get that gossiping. We get that taking things personally and making assumptions, and it's all just a giant, quagmire of yuckiness.
Yeah, and it's interesting because at some point it kind of turned into women felt like the only way to bond with another woman was to gossip.
Correct.
And then losing the trust of all the other women that you're talking about.
Correct.
And I don't understand when that happened. I'm certainly guilty of it. And
I think we all have over the course of our lives.
Yeah, and it was when I first heard you say a few weeks ago that that's her story. We don't have the right to tell that story.
Correct.
And that's when it kind of clicked with me. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love it if we could just click our fingers and go to not gossiping. Yeah, and go back to sitting in a circle.
It's a practice, right?
Yeah. I wish we could just go back to it instantly, but we can't.
We're getting there. We're a movement, yeah? We're getting there. We're coming back into right relationship with that. But it takes a lot of work. That's the wrong. I'm going to reframe that. It takes desire. It takes desire to want to do there, and I think that's the same answer to the question about somebody who's not sure if they're ready. If you have the desire to change something in your life, then just use that as your momentum and your guideline and your vision space to move forward. And if that's all that drives you, a desire for change, what it looks like you might not know straight away, but use it, because it's so powerful. It makes worlds. Desire. Like, look what happens when you desire a man and you're a woman, and then babies come from that. So, like, babies come from lots of other places, but I'm just talking about pure desire. Like, it creates relationships, it creates the foundation of life, it creates worlds, So, because like attracts like, that's desire. So when you're desiring to go somewhere with yourself, you will attract those situations and experiences to fulfill that desire. You just got to be prepared to go the distance.
I think that's where it comes back to that held space too. Something that just came up while you girls were talking was as the person sitting there and sharing and you're speaking it's not, you totally forget that you're there with other people, and you forget that the whole judgment thing's happening. But because you've spoken it, it's actually where the power comes in and you can change.
Yeah.
So speaking it out loud and to a group of other women in a safe place then breeds that next step to empower you to level it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, in those spaces, if judgment does come up within ourselves, what's that saying about me?
Mm.
What do I need to actually address there?
Yeah.
Not rather than the judgment towards the other person that they're saying, because that's how it usually arises. But usually it's something that's amiss inside of ourselves. And unpacking that has such powerful potential, because you're like, oh, that's what that's about. Okay, all right, well, I can address that with this. But we're not taught that either, Caitlin, in those toxic spaces. It's like judgment is normal.
Yeah.
We should be judging. So, if we've got billions of women walking around judging themselves as well as other people, because that's what we've been indoctrinated with. We've been put in competition with each other, and judgment always comes. It doesn't matter, like if you strip everything away, judgment is usually at its rudimentary saying, this thing is in opposition to what I think and feel or believe, so therefore it's wrong. And when you strip that away and you go, well, wrong to who? Wrong how? Who decides what the parameters of wrong are? Like, it's okay for you to go, that's not for me, or I would do that a different way, or perhaps that could have been handled in but you're also talking from your lens, right? So it's getting really conscious about what is that about for you, and then you're sitting in the power seat, right? Yeah.
Thank you so much to both of you for your insight today, diving very deep once again. To the women out there listening, if something in this conversation resonated, if you felt that quiet pull or that sense of there's something more here for me, you're not alone in that, and I can tell you that. And She Rose is one of those spaces where women come to explore exactly that. It's a 2-day immersive experience held across Australia and Canada, where women are supported to reconnect with themselves, unpack what's been sitting beneath the surface, and step into a deeper sense of identity. And for those who feel called into something more personalised, Jo also works with women inside her Embodied Woman one-on-one container. We'll pop the links in the show notes if you'd like to explore further, but for now, thank you for being here and for being part of these conversations.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Every Woman and Her Dog. And thank you to Nat as well. Thanks for being here. I'm sure you'll see us around the traps soon enough.
Yes, for sure.
And we'll catch up with you in our next conversation. Bye. Firstly, a deep thank you to our guests today for their honesty, wisdom, and the courage to have those real conversations. If something's landed for you today, don't brush it off. That pull you feel, it's your next edge calling. If you'd like to explore working with me, hit me up on my socials or on my website at joannelee.com.au. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself, because you're worth it. With love, Jo.